Welcome back guys, this is Campie and I'm going to show you how to beat map 3-2. So I chose Sky with a drone gun and plasma gun, and I'm primarily going to use the lightning tower. For the perks I chose corpse explosion, which will do most of the damage. I also chose juxtaposition because it seems to make slow weapons more dependable. And I also chose spray and pray because it makes my attacks do 40% more damage. Although the drone gun, the damage caps at 115 now. It used to be 135, but it recently got nerfed again. And again, the drone gun is the best in Sky's hand because every time the drone shoots, it gets more powerful and the next shot does more damage, up to 115 damage now. Make sure you close up the gap on the east side, close to the core, or else enemies will run there as well. The way I'm going to build this maze is I'm going to have the enemies on the southwest side. They're going to run up the stairs, and the stairs are going to lead to the east side, and then from there they're going to run around and back down the stairs through the middle and go up the stairs on the west side to the core. This strategy is effective because the enemies on the southwest side, they have to travel a longer distance to get to your core. And if you have the enemies, if you had enemies from the southeast and southwest side rush you at the same time, you'll have way more enemies to deal with. But if you make a maze to sparse them out, it makes this level a lot more easier. I'm going to be putting my towers that I built at the beginning on the maze pieces that are closest to the southwest entrance. The reason why I do this is so that when enemies spawn out from the southwest side, they will be attacked by my towers right away. And my towers will kill as many of them as possible. That is until then later the enemies from the southeast side will come and the towers will kill them. Then after that, the enemies from the southwest side, they'll probably make it to our killing zone next. So you can see how it's important to sparse out the enemies, because if the enemies from both entrances make it through your maze at the same time, then more enemies will slip past through your maze and attack your core. This level is generally tricky, but if you build your maze to my specifications, then this level isn't too bad. There are at least 2 rounds where there would be Spitfires, those air units. If you don't have anti-air towers, then you can build the maze so that enemies will attack your core from the east side. I say this because most of the flying enemies will come from the east side entrance, and they'll go up along the east side path and attack your core from there. But if you have an anti-air tower, then I guess stick with a plan and build your killing zone on the west side. I'm using mostly drone guns in the beginning, and when an enemy dies, the corpse explosion will damage the surrounding enemies. But if there's a bunch of enemies that are relatively nearby, use a plasma gun secondary fire. That secondary fire will cause the plasma gun to shoot homing plasma balls that will seek targets, and it will also shoot through enemies, dealing a lot of damage to them. If you have a bunch of looms that are all lined up and you shoot either primary or secondary plasma at them, it will do a ton of damage to them and they'll just go down like flies. So I continue to extend my maze down here. It's also a good idea to make a lot of curves and turns because there's a lot of rhinos that you will kind of encounter later on. And if you have a bunch of long straightaways, the rhinos excel at countering those types of mazes. So right now I'm just using a drone gun, shooting through the wall, and you fly infinitely long distances to kill enemies. Sometimes I look at the mini map, and then when I see enemies are really close by to my killing zone, I switch to my plasma gun and press the secondary mouse key. But if enemies from the east entrance aren't close to my killing zone, then I would unleash a full load of drones, and when I'm waiting for that weapon to recharge, then I would switch to my plasma gun. Then I would use secondary fire, fire off 6 shots. Then I would switch back to my drone gun, which should have reloaded by then, and then unleash a full load again. Note this applies if you're using juxtaposition. I like using juxtaposition. It seems to level out and make slow, heavy weapons more dependable. If there were fewer enemies, but like warriors, strong enemies, then you don't need juxtaposition as much. But if you have a lot of enemies, then juxtaposition adds more ammo to slow weapons and makes it shoot faster. I also add a focus laser tower here for good measure to help me kill enemies that kind of slip past the killing zone. The landing towers will probably kill most of the runners as soon as they leave the entrance on the west side. I'm going to try to have my drone gun kill the enemies that are coming out from the east entrance. Well, you can probably see why I chose to use the lightning towers. Lightning towers are good against fast little creatures as well as slow strong creatures. Although they're not the best against soakers, but my primary weapons, such as a drone gun, can kill them pretty quickly or fairly quickly. But we really gotta watch out for the enemies in the killing zone and try to kill them with corpse explosion. Because once enemies kind of slip past the killing zone, it makes it much more difficult to keep up with the enemies that come out and to deal with them. I would normally use mind control towers. I would probably make 2 or 3 of them, but due to the recent changes in the patch that came out not too long ago, the mind control tower has been nerfed pretty greatly. The duration lasts 1 second less, I think. They cost more to create, and enemies cannot be mind controlled more than once per enemy, that is. And the cooldown only starts to reset after the enemy has no longer been mind controlled by that tower. So if you're playing solo maps and you're not playing a survival mode, then mind control tower kind of sucks now. But if you're playing survival mode with other players, then mind control tower might be more viable. I kind of wish they made mind control towers strong when you're playing a normal map, and weaker maybe when you're playing survival. So we really want to focus on killing the bobbleheads. I'm going to try to focus my attacks to kill the bobbleheads, because once they're close to the core, then it might be too late already to try and kill them. Since I'm using spray and pray, my accuracy is lowered, so it's kind of more difficult to kill bobbleheads. The drone gun is decent at killing bobbleheads, although it takes a long time for the drones to kill them. The plasma gun, if I manually fire on them with the primary mouse button, the left mouse button, I can kill them fairly easily, but that is without the spray and pray. But I guess even with spray and pray, it's still possible to kill them. So I build a level 2 anti-air tower over there to help me deal with the flying enemies. In the past, I had to go over to that side to kill enemies, and I would try to kill all the flying enemies, and once they're dead, I would run back to the other side, the west entrance. But with the anti-air tower, you pretty much can just stand on the west side. Back then, without the anti-air tower, it'd be much easier to beat this map with 2 players, because 1 player can just go to the other side and take care of the air. It's pretty crazy how far that focus tower can shoot. So just try to blow up the big packs of enemies with your corpse explosion. And if you see big groups of enemies, do secondary fire with your plasma gun. And when you're reloading your plasma gun, switch to your drone gun, shoot a couple of shots off of that, maybe 4 or 5 shots, then switch back to your plasma gun. There's just a ton of walkers, and it's so easy to get overwhelmed by them. In this walkthrough, I actually beat this level without my core being damaged at all, which is kind of surprising because there's always 1 or 2 waves that kind of mess me over, and enemies just like beat the core for a bit. I also might want to mention that staying up here is probably a good idea. It's really easy to get killed by enemies such as a screamer or rhinos if they attack you. So if you stay far above and far away, then it might be a good idea. It's a lot safer. This wave has the biggest group of flying enemies. So if you could upgrade the anti-air tower to level 3, that's a good idea. Then they probably wouldn't be able to harm your core. That is if you place the anti-air tower not too close to your core. If you build your anti-air tower right beside your core, which I don't totally recommend, you can leave your anti-air tower level 2. In that tower, we'll be able to handle all the air units, but the air units will be able to attack the core. So it will lose a little bit of life if you do that. Just remember, level 2 is the minimal for anti-air to be effective.
That seems to be all of them.
This wave used to be one of the 2 most difficult waves in this map. Dealing with all the enemies, including the hoverers, used to be very difficult. But with the drone gun, this level isn't too bad, it's pretty easy. If you don't have the drone gun, then I recommend using a mine tower. Build at least 1 mine tower, maybe 2 in the beginning, and just lay mines at the very end. And just ignore the hoverers and just let them slip past your maze defense, and just let them walk on those landmines and blow up. The only tough part is if other enemies such as a rhino, if they step on the landmines, then they're pretty much wasted, the landmines. If you wish to save the landmines for this particular wave 8, then you can just collect the landmines, just stack them up on top of walls somewhere away from enemies. But since I have the drone gun here, I don't really have to do that. I can just easily kill hovers with a drone gun. Lightning towers are effective 50% of the time when they attack hovers. And for a focus tower, I would say about 50% as well. If you fire the homing plasma balls behind the hover, they will kind of boomerang and attack the hover from behind, but it's not 100% reliable.
All clear for now.
The reason why I built 2 focus tower here at the end is because the last wave has a matriarch. That is that big boss hoverer. And that enemy is probably the one that is the most dangerous in this level. You could kill it with mines, but I find that having a focus tower in either one of those locations where I built the focus tower, it will help greatly attack the matriarch from behind, if it's able to get to my core, that is. So if you look at the mini-map, there's just a huge concentration of enemies, so I'm just going to fire off some heat-seeking plasma balls. So I'm just firing a couple of feet above them, and the plasma balls will automatically get attracted to enemies and they'll just kind of dip down and attack them.
That seems to be
Alright, for the toughest wave. Well, the first wave is pretty tough too because you don't have much maze and you don't have much towers to deal with. I sold my anti-air tower because it won't work against hover. Nor the matriarch boss, which is kind of like a super hoverer. Then I just take that money I got back and I upgraded my focus tower just in case the matriarch makes it back there or any other enemy that gets back there. For this wave, I'm going to stand on the east side and I'm going to start pumping out drones so it can attack the boss as soon as it comes out. I should be able to fire off at least 3 full rounds at the boss before it disappears from my view. At that point, I'm going to strafe to the west side, shooting drones through the wall. The matriarch boss will most likely be the first enemy to kind of make it to your maze or to the end of your maze. So definitely focus on a hover queen first. Oh yeah, sorry guys, it's hover queen, not matriarch boss, hover queen. So now that the hover queen has been dealt with, the rest is pretty easy. There's some warriors there, so you want to be careful. And the big groups of walkers, you can pretty much just use corpse explosion and kill them with AoE weapons. So this level is pretty much done now. You know, you pretty much won when the music sounds kind of different. And it's pretty much telling you you won already, but you just gotta kill the remaining enemies. And that's pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video and you found it informative. And if you did, please subscribe to my channel. And I'll see you in the next clip.